All right, so in John chapter 6, verses 5 through 13, we are going to look at this first miracle here. And in verse 5, it says this: Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good is that with this huge crowd?" "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. The men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterward, he did the same with the fish, and they all ate as much as they wanted. After everyone was full, Jesus took his disciples and said, "Now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." So they picked up the pieces and filled 12 baskets with scraps left by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. Okay. Now, what's happened here is Jesus has developed this following, okay? So right before this sequence that happens right here, he's seeing this big crowd. They're all coming to him, and when he sees them, he immediately, it says earlier there, it says he has compassion on the crowd. And as he has compassion on the crowd, he starts healing the people that are sick and the people that are dealing with difficulties. He starts healing them. And so this crowd just continues to grow. Like in social media, Jesus would be trending, okay? And so here's the other thing you need to see. It says 5,000 men, okay? That's not talking about women and children, okay? So 5,000 men, we're like, wow, 5,000 men. There's more like 10 to 20,000 people here. So just give you an idea of like how overwhelming this is. They're all here to see Jesus. And I love this because he turns to one of his disciples. He already knows what he's going to do. Just like in our lives, he already knows what he's going to do. But he turns to his disciple and says, "Hey, figure out, we got to feed these people. We're going to feed 20,000 people. Jesus, we can't do this. This is crazy. There's no way we can do this." Okay, just like any of us would respond. In the actual original language here in the Greek, he actually responds with, but that would be 200 denarii wouldn't even be enough to feed these people, okay? Now, 200 denarii would be, 1 denarii is like the equivalent of 1 day's wage. So he literally tells Jesus, he's like, "Listen, Jesus, we could work for 8 months, and 8 months' salary wouldn't do it." Okay, so there's no way they're going to feed these people. So Andrew, one of the disciples, brings this little boy to Jesus, okay? Brings him to Jesus, and he's got 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. It's like, hey, how many of you remember, do they still make Lunchables? Like, okay, yeah, those were hot, okay? When those came out, you could like tell the kids whose parents love them versus me and my hot lunch. And I was like, oh, you have a Lunchable. Awesome for you, okay? And anyway, I've gotten McNuggets for the 5th straight day, okay? And they're the same that I had for breakfast, okay? But anyway, so it's almost like he gave him a Lunchable, all right? And it's like, good luck with that, okay? So Jesus asks for this, he gets this, and he's got this huge crowd before him, and keep in mind, nobody here is going, "Jesus, you got this. You're going to feed all these people. This is going to be amazing. Jesus, by the authority of your word, I know that you're going to make this happen." No one's sitting there thinking that. They're all going, what is going to happen? What do we do here? How do we, we should send them away. And so what Jesus does is he takes that, and then he prays over it. And I don't know, as he's praying over it, I don't know if they're thinking, is he going to steal this kid's lunch and eat it in front of us? Like, what's going to happen here? They don't know. And so then all of a sudden, he just starts handing it out. And everybody's eating. And they just keep eating. And it just keeps multiplying. And stories like this that go, man, can I just be there and just see something like that? Like, I don't know. Like, we try and describe what that must have looked like. I have no idea what that looked like. Like, all I can imagine is everybody sitting there, and they're probably just staring at him. Like this awkward silence of, I can't believe this is happening. We're all eating. There's thousands of us here, and he's just up there doing his thing. And it's an amazing, amazing miracle, okay? It's like the only miracle that all 4 Gospels, they all put and write about. Because it's just, they're all just like in shock at what they're seeing, okay? Because this isn't like, let's feed the crowd of 50. This is thousands and thousands of people, and it just keeps happening to the point where they're all full, and then there's leftovers, all right? And what I love about this is he tells his disciples, who didn't have any faith, he says, hey, will you guys go pick up because there's leftovers, all right? So can you go pick that up? And they go and pick up, and this is so how Jesus is. I love this, because how many baskets of full baskets of leftovers do they pick up? 12. How many disciples are there? 12. So each one comes back, and as they're making their way through the crowd, they're seeing their other buddy, and they're like, okay, so we both have baskets. We all have baskets. They're blown away. Only Jesus could do this. Only Jesus could do this. And so they see this, and here's the thing. Now, one of the huge lessons here is we see this kid sacrifice his lunch and bring it to Jesus. Very insignificant in relation to any the size of the crowd and all that. But what our takeaway here, one of the amazing takeaway here is when you give something to Jesus, your gift, your talent, financially, whatever it is, you have no idea how he can multiply that. And what we see Jesus do is literally take an insignificant individual and an insignificant gift, and he multiplies it to fulfill this incredible, incredible need. And I think sometimes we go, well, I'm just not significant enough to make a difference. Or what I have to offer, man, it's nothing like what they have to offer. I'm not as gifted as that person, or I can't do this like this other person. And Jesus is saying, listen, I did these miracles with people that had nothing significant to offer me. And so what we see here is Jesus doing this. And it's not in response to faith. It's in response to his authority, who he is, and the compassion that he has on other people. And what does it do? It points to an amazing, amazing God. And so once again, I want to encourage you to not put circumstances or conditions on what God can either do through you or a gifting or a talent that he's given you, because he can multiply absolutely anything. I want you to turn to Mark 4 now. In Mark 4, verses 35 through 41. And the setting here is Jesus has he's spoken, he's been talking, he's tired, and he's like, all right, we need to get away. So he tells his disciples, let's go, let's get away, let's go to the other side of the lake. And so in verse 35 it says, as evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross to the other side of the lake. So they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat, and it began to fill with water. Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. The disciples woke him up, shouting, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Silence, be still." Suddenly the wind stopped, and there was a great calm. Then he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The disciples were absolutely terrified. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. Even the wind and the waves obey this guy. Okay, so Jesus is tired. He tells them, let's go on the other side of the lake. Let's get out of here. He is there and he's sleeping, okay? So Jesus got tired. All right, he's there, he's asleep, and the disciples are making their way. It's late, and they're making their way across the lake. And as we talked about last week, this lake was known for these sudden, violent storms that would come and they would go because of the geographic location. And so this storm comes. They're there, and they're like, "We're done. Like, waves are coming over, we're all going to drown," okay? And so then I'm guessing they wait till the very last second, and they're like, "Jesus, wake up. Don't you care that we're dead? We're going to drown. Like, don't you care? Get up." And I love what happens here, because what does Jesus do? He gets up, and he's like, "Stop." Wind, waves, everything stops. And he looks at his disciple, and he's like, "Where is your faith?" Okay, once again, if I'm there, I'm paralyzed in shock, because he just literally told the wind and the waves to just stop it, okay? But here's something that I typically do. I typically, when I put myself into the story, I go, how can these disciples still doubt him? And how come they have this little faith? And we start judging these disciples. Well, the first thing you need to understand, what did most of these disciples have as an occupation? They were fishermen. Okay, so who knew that lake pretty well? The disciples. Who knew water? Who knew the weather and all that really well? The disciples did. Okay, so listen, if they are saying we're gonna drown, that's a big deal because that's their field. Okay, some of you have a specific trade or skill set or a calling on your life, and you're an expert in your field, whatever that is. We have different people who are different experts in different fields here. And when you speak about your field, I listen because I don't know. Okay, like you can tell me stuff that I just don't know, okay? When Lindsay and I got married, and this was a 100% understanding on both our sides, she was used to having a parent and a family that if something was broken, they could fix it or build something. The understanding was, I can't fix or build anything. You need to know that. Like, I can't do that. I will try and attempt, but I can't do that. So one of the things when, if her dad comes into town and he's built furniture for us and everything, and I just look at it and I go, I don't even know how, okay? But when he says something about how to fix something, I listen because I have no clue what I'm doing. All right? You need to understand that this is what the disciples do. This is what they've done all their lives. They own a company, some of them. They own their own fishing company. Okay? They understand water, and they're saying, we're going to die. And so Jesus responds to this, and I go, man, Jesus, that's kind of mean. Like, why are you like scolding? This is like, they obviously know that you were about to go under, and Jesus is just asleep during all this. And I'm like, Jesus, why? What's the deal here? Okay, now, one of the things that Jesus is worked up about and upset is this. Who told them to get in the boat and to go to the other side? Jesus did. So by them saying, don't you care about us? We're going to drown. They're questioning everything he's told them to do. First of all, they're questioning, why'd you tell us to go across the lake? Second, they're questioning, we're not going to make it. We're not going to, and you told us to do this? And the third thing is like, they had no biblical understanding to know that the Savior's not predicted to die by a drowning. Like, that's not how it's going to go down, okay? So they forgot all of this. They allowed this storm to come into their lives, and they allowed this storm to block everything they knew to be true about Jesus. And the thing about it is, I don't know about you, but that connects with me in a powerful way. Because there are things in my life, there are storms that happen, and I've seen God's faithfulness. I've seen him do all these things, and yet I still find myself doubting, questioning, I'll waver here and there sometimes. And it's like, man, what is my deal? What is my problem? And it's a struggle. And I think sometimes we just think, oh, everything just works out. But man, when that storm hits you, it's really, really hard. It's hard to get through some of these storms. And so when I think about this and how Jesus deals with this and the wavering and the doubt that was going on, man, I go and I say, man, God, what are you after here? Well, I think one of the things that he's after is there's going to be certain things in your life that you can't control. Okay? Like, you can't control people, all right? Try that, all right? Tell me how it goes. You can't control the weather. You can't do that. You can't control the market and what's going on. You can't control the economy. You can't control the government. You can't control your family, okay? And yet, we get so worked up about this. And so these attacks, they happen. The disciples could not navigate the weather and do all that. Jesus could. But what happens is they get so caught up in this storm that happens, and we have these storms that happen in our lives. And the thing that we do is we start immediately looking at all the things we can't control, and we freak out about it like the disciples did, as opposed to going, what can I control? And then how do I demonstrate a faith and a trust in Jesus Christ? And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I get so caught up in this storm that I even sometimes I'll forget I even have Jesus. Like I'm just like so like, this is, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I don't know how I'm going to have the money to deal with this. And what Jesus is reminding them is listen, I am all you ever need, and there is nothing I can't do. And the other thing about this is storms come, but storms go. And Jesus just, and in that case, Jesus just went, be gone. And it was done. Sometimes we treat storms like they're never going to go away. And I want to encourage you that when you look at your Bible and you look at the stories in there, they're not just in there for you to just go, wow, that's amazing. I'm entertained. Someone should make a movie about that. They're in there to cause us to think and consider and to go, man, I've felt this way before. You know, I wasn't in a boat and it wasn't a storm, but man, in a different way, this happened to me. And I didn't know what to do. And I caught myself going, you know, Jesus, why are you allowing this to happen to me? And in reality, a lot of times, I've done it to myself. And so, you know, one of the things that I just want to encourage you with is to understand that storms are temporary. They're not permanent. So it will end. It will be done. The other thing is, where does your hope, your faith, and your trust lie? Does it lie in you, what you know, what you can do, or does it lie in the one that's got complete, absolute authority and control? Next is John 11. In John chapter 11, we have another amazing, amazing story here. And in John chapter 11, verses 17 through 44. And to give you a little bit of context, so Jesus is doing ministry with his disciples again. And what's happened is some messengers have come to him and say, Jesus, this great friend of yours that you're really close with, Lazarus, he's sick and he's dying. Okay? So Jesus hears this. Now his friend Lazarus, he lives in a place called Bethany. Now, Jesus, last time he was in Bethany, they're like, we want to stone you. Okay? Like they weren't fans of Jesus over there. Okay? And so Jesus hears about the sickness. After he hears about the sickness of his friend, he waits another couple days. He doesn't just go and deal with it. He actually waits a couple days after he's already heard about it. And as he's waiting, the disciples, they're going, okay, Jesus, you know, what are you going to do? Or, you know, what's the response going to be? And Jesus tells them, listen, he's dead. Like he died? Yes. Jesus is like, he died. But he says, this is going to be something that I'm going to use in an incredible, incredible way. Now, the disciples had no clue. Okay, once again, there's no faith. Jesus isn't responding to them. And actually, one of the disciples, Thomas, actually says, Jesus, well, let's all follow Jesus over there and let's all die with him. Because they just assume that they're going to kill Jesus when they see him there. All right, but Jesus responds to him and he says, listen, there is no safer place I can be than in the center of what God's called me to do. And you guys need to understand this. And so Jesus heads out and he goes over to Bethany to go see his friend who has died. And in verse 17 it says this. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this, Martha? Yes, Lord, she told him, I have always believed you are the Messiah and the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, the teacher is here and wants to see you. So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw all the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you put him? He asked them. They told him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, see how much he loved him? But some said, this man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. And Jesus said, roll the stone aside. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible. Some of you have been said that about. Jesus responded, didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe? So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so that they will believe you sent me. Then Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wiped in a headcloth. Jesus told them, unwrap him and let him go. Now, this is like insane. Okay, now that was a lot of reading, but this is insane. Okay, so Jesus comes. And remember, he's really close friends with Lazarus. Lazarus' sisters are Mary and Martha. And so they're concerned. And as Jesus is walking into this picture, there's so many emotions going on with Jesus. Number one is this. This is very close to when Jesus is going to die. So Jesus has the heightened sense of emotions already as he's going over here to this place. And as he goes and as he sees this, okay, now he's going to mourn his friend, but he already knows what he's going to do. Like, he knows what he's going to do. But I think when Jesus is coming, it's not just about his friend. What Jesus is looking at is he's overwhelmed with the sense of emotion of not only what he's about to do, but he's seen what sin has done. Because what are all these people doing? They're mourning. Okay, they're mourning. They're like they have no hope. Okay, and what Jesus has come to do is to bring hope in hopeless situations. And so he's sad. He's angered by what's going on. And the thing you need to understand is it's totally different tradition back then. Even poor families for a funeral, they had to have a minimum of 2 flute players. So they had to pay a couple flute players to be there, minimum of 2. And then they had to pay a mourner to be there, at least one. You thought your career occupation was interesting. Like, what do? I mourn. I weep. Really? I don't even know how you get into that profession, okay? I don't know if they pass it down like you're going to be a crier, son, as you grow up, and it's going to be great for you, okay? Like, I don't know how you, like, go and brag about that. But anyway, so they were pretty wealthy, so there was, like, multiple mourners, all right? So there's people crying all over. They've probably got, like, 8 flutists. Oh, I don't even know if that's what they're called. But we'll just call them that for now. But anyway, they're playing and all this, and Jesus is just soaking all this up, all right? And to be honest, I'm guessing he's kind of like, I am over this. This is ridiculous. Okay, take me to where my friend is, all right? And so he goes to the cave. Now listen. Okay, Martha's 100% confused when Jesus says, I can raise him up. She's thinking he's talking about the end of time, when all of us that have faith and hope in Jesus Christ, we're going to be raised up at the last. And so she's talking about that, and Jesus is like, no, you're missing it. Okay? And so we see a situation here once again where Jesus comes, he's being questioned, like these people are like, man, this is the guy that could do all these things, and yet, man, he couldn't heal this person, or where were you? Why couldn't you be here on time? All these things, everything about him is being questioned, his authority, his intent, all those things, and Jesus goes to the tomb, and keep this in mind, like after 4 days, like this dude's starting to stink. Like, it's not like he's just died and, wait, he wasn't really dead, you know, and then, he's up. Like he's been in there for 4 days. Now, what they used to believe back in those days is they used to believe that the soul would be in the body and around it for 3 days, but the 4th day, the soul was gone. Okay, so it's so interesting that Jesus waits until 4 days. It's like decaying should be happening. Soul is long gone. Everything is just like game over, all right? And Jesus prays, and he prays loudly. And you never see Jesus pray to be noticed except for right here. And what does he even say? As he's talking to the Father, he says, I'm praying like this so that they'll hear what I'm saying, and so they'll believe in your authority and what you can do. And right after that, he goes, all right, move the stone, Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus comes out, all jacked up and everything. And he's like, unwrap him. And Lazarus, he brought him back to life. And I'm telling you what, you want to talk about a stunned crowd? Like, in shock? Lazarus was probably mad. Really? I was just there? Ugh. You know, but he brings him back, and he demonstrates this incredible power by doing this. Victory over death. You know, and I look at this and I go, man, what this must have done to all their faith as they see this and watch what Jesus did. But, you know, one of the things about this is when I look at Jesus and I look at the miracles, sometimes you get so caught up in the miracles or maybe just a story, and you miss out at the very heart and the very core of it. When you see Jesus do these miracles, you'll usually read, Jesus had compassion. See, when Jesus is doing miracles, one, he did miracles because he could, and the second is because he had compassion. He had compassion on people. He was able to see someone sick, and that broke his heart. He saw what sin had done to something that he had created to be. He had created us not to experience sin or death or decay. And so he's seen this, and he's walking around. He has the power to heal that, and so he's healing it. He's got compassion on people. He loves people. And the thing, you know, for some of us, too, that we get so caught up in seeking out these miracles, these supernatural events, and we want to follow those, and we want to be behind that. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, and I warned you and gave you some caution last week, when you try and do ministry like this, and that's what you're all about, because guess what? He just does something that's insane, amazing, ridiculous, okay? Like, you and I, we've never seen anything even close to this, okay? And yet, what happens after that, if you look at the verses, it's after that specific event that they start plotting to kill him. What? Like, okay, for those of you who haven't seen Gladiator, all right? Now, I'm not saying go see it. I think it's rated R. But anyway, there is this scene in Gladiator, not that I've seen it, and he says, are you not entertained? Now, I just imagine Jesus wanting to say, are you not entertained? Like, what else do I have to do? Okay, and so we see this incredible thing, but they still don't believe, and they're more angry at him. So they want to kill him now. It's crazy. They even say, let's figure out how to kill Lazarus again. Like, you want to talk about not understanding or getting it? Like, obviously God wants that dude alive. And you're going to try and kill him, and this is literally the event, this amazing event is what they're like, we're going to kill Jesus now. Let's figure out how to get this done. And so for some of you, I just want to encourage you, like quit seeking out these things that you think are going to solve everything, because it's not things that are going to solve it. It's Jesus Christ. It's a relationship with him, and it's a belief and an understanding in his ultimate authority and a trust in him. And these people missed it. They missed it in some of these amazing miracles. And man, gosh, I get so caught up in this, and I get so frustrated when I look at this. But you know, I feel like we miss it. Like, we miss the incredible miracles that we all come in here, and we all have like jacked up lives. Some of us have had a jacked up week. We've done things we wish we wouldn't have done in all this. And yet you have this Savior that has this compassion for you that is unbelievable. When you see over and over again, as we looked at these miracles, in these last three in particular, where there's no faith in him, Jesus does not discard the people or his disciples. And you know what? After he does these miracles, he doesn't say, well, you're all going to turn away from me in a week anyway. He doesn't do that. Jesus has incredible compassion. And if there's something you need to take away, it's this. Jesus has incredible compassion for you. He does. Regardless of what you've done, regardless of what you've been through, regardless of the storms, regardless if you're in a storm, he's got incredible compassion, and he's worthy of your trust in his utmost authority. He's worthy of that. He can get you through absolutely anything. And there's some of us, our lives are changed, our stories, we are miracles in this room because of his relentless pursuit for you and for me, because he didn't give up on us. And that just gets me so excited. There is nothing in this room, there is nothing going on in our lives that's beyond his redeeming. And I look at that and I go, man, this blows my mind, because when I look at each one of these miracles, they all point to something that the people believed in, that hope was lost. Okay? Lazarus, hope is lost. Okay? The storm's coming, we're all dead, hope is lost. There's no way we can feed these people. The hope is lost that they're going to eat. When there is no hope, that's when Jesus is at his greatest. And for some of us, that's when we fold up shop. That's when we quit. And he's like, no, you're just starting to see how amazing I am. And for some of you, I just want to plead with you, don't give up or give in, because he's in complete control, regardless of how thick the storm feels in your life. And I'll say this too. It's crazy. I was at a funeral yesterday, and I'm there, and I'm just celebrating this guy's life, this amazing guy, and he was such an encouragement to me, a blessing to me, believed in me. And as I'm there, the pastor, who's a friend of mine that was doing it, starts sharing about how this guy was telling him how, literally he turned away from God for 40 years, and then came back to God and all this, and the guy lived an amazing life, and I'm sitting there, and I go, he turned away for 40 years? 40 years? Like, I'm thinking, man, 4 years I've been away. Whoa. Man, and I've done some bad, oh man, God can't redeem me or do this. I'm at a funeral, and there's hundreds of people here to celebrate the life of a guy who turned away from God for 40 years. And some of us are sitting here going, man, God can't redeem me, can't redeem my story, can't fix my problem. I am amazed at the impact that guy, and he had an impact on my life, had, and I never even knew that. But I tell you what, he lived this, and Jesus did a dramatic transformation with his life, and he turned away for 40 years. And I was just overwhelmed with this compassion and this love that God has for every single one of us, that someone can turn away for 40 years and God go, I'm not done with you. I'm not done with you. I'm just, like, his life after that was even greater. He's like, I'm just getting started with you. And sometimes I just want to say, man, God, forgive me, because this storm, and you know what, honestly, sometimes it's just like a dust up. It's not like a hurricane. It's like just this little like wind blowing. You're like, God, please, what am I going to do? And he's like, relax. Like, do you see what's in here? Like, do you see what I've done? Do you see what I can do in your life? I have ultimate authority. And this last verse, I just want to close with this verse is so powerful. In 2 Timothy 2:13, it says this: if we are unfaithful, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny who he is. I love that. Let me read that one more time. If we are unfaithful, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny who he is. At the very core of who he is faithful. He's dependable, he's steady, and he's there for you. And these people that followed him, that got so caught up in all these things, they missed it. And he keeps demonstrating his ultimate authority and his compassion, his love for them, and they missed it. And I just want to encourage you, whatever God has called you to do, or the direction he's calling you in, he's got it. He's got it. He's worthy, and you're going to have storms, okay? But here, you know what? I'll tell you what, my marriage is always great when there's no storms, right? Like, if Lindsay and I are in the Caribbean, we are so in love. It's like, oh, yeah, I love you too. Should we just stay and order room service? But then real world happens. A storm comes. And then it's like, I don't even want to look at you. No, but that's when you really see what it is. Your relationships with people. The calling on your life is not defined when things are going good. The calling on your life and your relationship with God, it's really refined and shown when things go bad. Now, that's not like, yay, I can't wait to leave church. Now I'm so excited. That's not that fluffy message we want to hear, but I'm telling you right now, that's when you experience how amazing he is. See, all those moments, these miracles happen, they were at moments of desperation. And sometimes, just as Jesus foreknew what he was going to do, he delayed on purpose in every single one of these situations. He knows what's going on in your life, and there is a purpose and plan even though you're in a storm. And I know that by the authority of his word, and I know that because in his very character, the core of who he is, he's faithful. He's faithful. Like, he can't deny who he is. He's faithful. And he will be faithful to you. But listen, I want to encourage you, lock around him. Okay? Because this whole world is going to tell you, do this, do that, go to that person, talk to that person, or just give up and start over. That's like the new hot button. Well, that didn't work out, so you should just leave it. Like, just go and start over. Yay. And it's like, no. This is now the time when we start seeing how amazing this God is. Because all the troubles, all the struggles in my life, I love God so much more today than if it had just been like handed to me and everything else. I am so thankful for the difficulties in this life. I'm thankful. Now I am. At the time, I'm like, this is horrible. Why did I become a Christian? Okay? But when you are around it and you see what God has brought you through, when you see the story, when you go to a funeral and see people all excited, wearing bright colors because of a life that's been redeemed, that's when you go, that's it. That's what it's about. And when you look at a verse and see, my God is going to be faithful to me when I'm faithless, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And I hope you are. And listen, don't miss it. Don't miss out on how much compassion and love and the redemption story he wants to do with your life, and use your story and for his amazing purposes. But also, just at the very core of all this Bible shows that God has ultimate authority. The storm is a season. The storm is not going to stay. It will leave, but he will remain, and he's worth it. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you for these, I thank you for these stories. I thank you for the miracles. I thank you for your life. I thank you what you modeled, what you represented. Lord, forgive us for so often getting so caught up in a storm that we miss out on who you are and what you're doing. Lord, I pray for some of us right now that are just struggling. I pray that we would remember not only who we are, but whose we are. We are yours. We are created in your image. And Lord, at your very nature, you're faithful, you're loving, you're kind. Forgive us for questioning that. Forgive us for thinking we know what's best for us. Forgive us for thinking we know the path that's going to bring us the most happiness and joy. We have no clue. And yet, Lord, when we look at this Bible, we see this incredible picture of a God that wants what's best for us, and a God that will take us to places we could never have imagined, but it's got to be his way. And so, Lord, I pray that we would welcome your refining work in all of our lives. Lord, I pray that we would welcome the difficult conversations, the difficult situations, the circumstances, the conversations, all these things that they're difficult, Lord, but as we walk through them, we start to see how amazing you are. Lord, I pray that that we would be rejuvenated to embrace the challenges of life and to know that you are faithful. In Jesus' name, amen.